show up, I don't tell you what it's going to be about. I don't give you any information whatsoever. I feel very blessed that people know that I'm not completely crazy and that they just show up when I ask them. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. I want to open up this space for you beautiful parents to just talk about your situations of breastfeeding, and folks who are on the panel as experts in any field, like Dr. Nancy, to kind of talk. If folks are up here as experts, they can talk about breastfeeding from that perspective, or also talk about their experience as a nursing parent. And I would love to have a sharing around the ups and downs, the good and bad of that experience for you. What was particularly challenging, what was particularly amazing, and if you needed help, was it available to you? Where did you find it? And what did it do? Does that sound good? So, for folks who didn't know, because you weren't here earlier today, my name is Sarah Morgan. I'm the Executive Director of the Open Better Birth Foundation. Yeah. Thank you for being here. And I think what I want to do, I want to just throw in my 2 cents here that, 34, almost 35 years ago, I gave birth to twin baby boys and I'm earthbound. So I have that experience as a twin mom nursing, being 19 years old and having everybody tell me, what? You're going to do what? With 2 babies? I did. And they're gorgeous. Thank you. So I might chime in a little bit, but firstly I want to hand it over. Who would like to just speak first?
I'm Nancy Gardner. I just taught a class about preventing breast cancer and breast health, so quite open to answering any questions people might have about that. But as far as my own personal experience, my first baby was born 2 months early, and she weighed only 4 pounds. And one of the things that I thought was pretty appalling at the hospital is nobody gave me any information. They just sat me in this room with this breast pump, and basically I had to learn what to do. And I had milked goats and sheep before, so I kind of had an idea how to get milk out of jugs, But no one told me that you should stop at a certain place. My freezer was stuffed full of jars. I felt like a cow. And I was just producing huge amounts of milk because no one told me to stop. And here I finally, 2 weeks later, bring home this little tiny baby that I had to buy doll clothes to put on. And her mouth was so small that she looked at my breast and just went, you couldn't even fit my nipple in her mouth, so I had to get these little cream bottles. And I'm like, oh my God, this milk isn't going to be done until she's in college. So anyway, I do think we need more education in the hospitals, and I'm 100% behind me.
So my name is Jenny, and I have so I was in Lilia, she's 3.5, and Liam is 8 months, and they're both nursing right now, and there's definitely been ups and downs. I mean, when I was pregnant with Amelia, I didn't really know the difference between breastfeeding and formula feeding, when they were able to, and it's not their fault. I guess what helped me the most, in the beginning I had some really great midwives that I had to do, and just being able to support and some education, and then I got some great mama friends, also breastfeeding. I don't know so much. But, just having that support and being able to breastfeed around other women on a regular basis, and and having multiple bouncing off because it goes up and down, like everything that's coming to me is sweet, like everything, so great one week and the next week is, really hard, and so it's good to have other, people who are doing the same thing to kind of talk to and have support. And once you kind of, after the first couple of months and you're going, it feels so much easier, but in the beginning, I wouldn't have made it because after those first couple of days, if I didn't have, midwives coming to the house and helping me, I feel like that's not something that is available to so experts who are available and educated people like doctors and pediatricians. There's so many stories of people getting really bad advice from pediatricians who don't know what to do with and then just having other women strong women and giving support and say, what you're going through. Yeah, and I feel like, we get really happy they always really hard. And so many other people face things that are so weird. I just don't know, how people do it without support.
The speaker today, you want to give her some advice, what would you tell her?
First of all, get support. Get people around you who know what they're talking about to help you. But also, if it's better than that,
Thank you. So I'll kind of talk about something, I didn't have a lot of sleep last night, and Ginny and my story are actually kind of connected. My name's Owen. I have a 3-year-old who's just about 6 weeks younger than Amelia, and I had a low milk supply. Ginny and I used the same birth center, and I felt like I knew pretty immediately that things were going right with breastfeeding with my son. And on the third day of and I was talking to my midwife and my doula, and weighing my son, it was evident that he had lost about 3 kilos. And that was more than it should have been, and that's when we started looking into whether or not I had enough milk. So I never reached a full supply. I was able to nurse him for 2 years. I nursed him for the first year eventually with an at the breast supplement, which is a little baggie around your neck. And there's a couple different styles, and then a little tube, and it would run along my nipple, and he would suck on both the tube and my breast at the same time. I used milk donors, and Ginny was one of my first milk donors, which I asked her to share. It was a big share. And so I also took domperidone, which is a prescription that it's officially a side effect of it that can increase your milk supply. It's not actually approved in the U.S. And that was a really difficult process for me to deciding whether or not to take that week. I had my best friend was in decide whether or not it was something that we felt comfortable doing. And we ended up feeling comfortable about it. And the option that was offered to us by my GYN was another prescription called Reglan, which can do the same thing. However, it doesn't necessarily, it's not as effective, and it has more side effects that are they're troubling, they're more likely to happen. They're still rare, but some of them include some mental health side effects that, given the emotions of just after, breastfeeding, I think a lot of people are pretty hesitant to take something that can have those intense mental health side effects. So my story was throughout the year. It was a lot of pumping. I started pumping when he was 2 or 3 days old. And taking the domperidone, using the supplementers, using the milk donation community. Again, like one of the biggest things that helped me was my midwife. My midwife had some history with lactation practice, and just what Ginny said is like her coming to the house and not having to go out of the house in that first week. She was at the house almost every day for the first week or two. And she was an incredibly involved process, and she really walked us through different possibilities. She walked us through having the milk donation process. My very first milk from another parent was a previous parent at the birth center that they had stored in the freezer at the birth center, and they brought over for us. We had a really incredible community of milk donors. Some were people we knew. One of my other early milk donors was a coworker of my partner who had had a baby in the hospital and had pumped extra milk. I had 2 long-term donors, Ginny and another woman. The other woman had an oversupply and was told to block nurse her baby and pump the other breast, and she also had a preemie, so she knew that there were people that needed milk because both of her babies were born early, and she actually donated to me for the year, and she pumped for the entire year for me, which is like this incredible gift, that even when she wasn't pumping for her son, she kept pumping for me, which, the amount that I was pumping, I know that it kind of sucks, So the fact that she was willing to keep doing this for me. I had a classmate, that just through, talking, it came up that he had a newborn and that his wife was pumping in preparation of going back to work, and suddenly she had a lot, and so our community really stepped up. The community aspect was really important. My son has 3 parents, which we are really lucky to have some extra people, especially in the beginning, to be reaching out to all the different sources. There's a couple Facebook groups that was where we got most of our milk donation. But we posted all over. We would post on the Parents Network and in the Facebook groups and stuff looking for donors, and all of us were driving out all over the Bay Area. We purchased an extra freezer so that we could take bigger donations. And so the community was both, in my parents, in the donors, and with the midwives, was really helpful in supporting us. I received WIC, and I had Kaiser, so I was working with the lactation consultants at WIC and the ones at Kaiser, and kind of every resource available to us. I think the messages that were really hard early on were the ones that kind of came in suggestions that breastfeeding should be easy, or you should breastfeed because it's so easy and you can take it anywhere and stuff. And it was not easy, and then those often well-intentioned, well, you should just try this, and that kind of, it felt sometimes like I wasn't doing it. Some of that came, especially from the WIC counselors, and just feeling like I pumping every 2 hours. I remember telling my midwife, I feel like I don't have any time to play with my baby because all I'm doing is breastfeeding or pumping. So the idea that I could be doing more was really tough. I think I also talked to a couple couple other low supply moms kind of before coming here. And one of the messages, that was true for everyone was like supporting women in however they breastfeed. And a close friend of mine was able to breastfeed for about 3 weeks, and she had incredibly traumatized nipple. And she stopped and started pumping. And she really felt like she wasn't able to breastfeed anymore. People prescribe something that she should take when she was breastfeeding, and that people weren't aware of her breastfeeding there anymore when she was pumping. But as she felt that the decision to pump instead of breastfeed really made her able to connect with her son more, because she had an incredibly traumatic, physically traumatic experience of nursing, and that it was very hard to connect with him. He was kind of the influence of extreme so that she felt like she was able to have a more open relationship with him when she was married. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. Oh, the other thing was that, so I worked with supplementers and donors for a year, and then I was able to keep breastfeeding my son after that for another year. And that time period, I think, was actually really healing for both of us, because it wasn't just hard for me, it was also hard for him at times. When I would, try and get him to nurse, especially when he was using the bottle more. When it was difficult, and when he was old enough to tell me that he wanted to switch sides. There's times that we would switch sides like 16, 17 times before going to bed, and he would get kind of frustrated. And having a period after when the pressure was off, that it wasn't his full source of, nutrition and stuff like that, but that period kind of the pressure was off for both of us. And so we could breastfeed more at a time of, soothing for him and connection, whereas I think the first year was pretty tough for both of us, so being able to keep that. And a special thing for me was I kept pumping when he was about 18 months in order to keep up my supply, so whenever I was working next door away from him, I would pump. And I ended up being able to donate that milk to another friend of mine, because he was, drinking cow's milk at the time, and we were more breastfeeding for the, the connection and stuff like that. And so that felt really special to me too, that I had another friend who was that I was able to do that too. So I think that's most of what I wanted to cover.
if I didn't know any better, especially after my daughter was born, her and I would not have breastfed. So knowing what I knew was helpful in continuing our rough relationship with my daughter. But again, there's millions of women out there that are looking to nurse, looking to breastfeed, and right off the bat we're getting sabotaged. And I think that that's really and that's really challenging to hear because, like Jenny said, it does get better, and I think that that's one thing I continually tell my moms that I speak to, that I counsel, that I see. I guess the number one thing is I always say that you can do it, and whatever that relationship is, that's a great relationship, and I think that when it gets down to it, women need to be empowered. They need to be empowered with their birth, need to be empowered with their breastfeeding, need to be empowered with their parenting. And I think that it's almost 99% of the time, those troubles that women have, they figure it out, or they go get the resources, they go get the information. We just need to be told they can do it. You're doing a great job. You're doing a wonderful job. Your baby loves you. You love your baby. You guys, we can do this together. And I think that just by hearing that, it helps. It helps. So that's, I think, one thing that's really important to me. And yeah, that's why I became a counselor. So I really love it, and hopefully we'll move forward. I'm looking at becoming a nurse, and then possibly a nurse practitioner. I really would like to deal with kids. Really want to keep the babies and the boobs together. I think that's just really important. And in any way, fashion that is, whether it's through an SNS, whether it's through donation, whether it's through bottles, whatever it is, and to make sure that those women feel supported in that relationship and those babies feel supported. And another thing that I really have started to become even more passionate about is extended breastfeeding. You see a lot of people out there nursing babies, and it's becoming more and more accepted, which is wonderful. But I think you see mothers nursing toddlers, you hear stories about mothers nursing toddlers, and we're constantly being pushed out of restaurants, pushed out of public areas, and I think that as a nursing mom to a toddler, that's really hard. And even as a certified lactation counselor, I even at times feel embarrassed to nurse my 4-year-old, and I shouldn't feel that way. I think that that's really important, so it's another thing that I'm really passionate about.
Perfect segue. Speaking about extended nursing, what's this young lady come to say? Okay. Yeah, my name is Aya. I'm an older mom, and the reason that matters is I remember the 70s, and I remember the home birth movement in the 70s, and my stepmom had a home birth, and that was my introduction to kind of what having a baby was and would look like. And so I always knew that I wanted to breastfeed and have my baby at home, and so I was really blessed to have Samsara deep in the midst of helping build that team. And then the other thing that happened, and the birth went well, and nursing went well, and then the other thing that was great was at the Sacred Birth Center, Samsara and others had a nurse in when my daughter was about 1, I think. It was like 2010 maybe. And I think it was a video that you showed that talked about how you can't, and if you showed it, just interrupt me. And how basically the amount of time that people breastfeed is culturally relative, and so you can't really figure out what is the optimal biological amount of time by looking at human beings because it varies so much. But the woman in the video looked at primates, because in primates there's no cultural pressure to make it be any different than what is biologically optimal. And when they, basically when they looked at the primates and adjusted for length of gestation, when they adjusted for all of the differences, it came out to the equivalent in human years of like 5.2 years or 6.8 years. Like it really was kind of between 4 and 7 years. And so I just decided, hey, good enough for apes, good enough for me. So we're on the extended plan. And I found that it's important. And I laugh and say, I'm sure she'll be weaned by middle school. But there are a couple of thoughts that I have that have been interesting. One has been that there have been a couple of times where it seemed like we needed to make some changes in the nursing because emotionally there were some feelings that were there to be faced. And so it was time to set a limit around nursing so that those feelings could be faced and processed by her. But currently, and so, I sort of unite me because we don't share and we just need and we got it. So our practice now is generally, we're changing sides. Our practice now is generally, she's developed many different skills here. Our practice is now that we just nurse in the morning, and our practice is that we just nurse in the morning, but today was special because she said, I really want to nurse. Everybody's here talking about nursing and dad's very interested in nursing. So I said, well, it's a special breastfeeding fair. I guess we'll make it something. But the thing for me that I'm just sitting with here is as there's no sort of abstract there's no abstract thought that I have about like we're going to nurse up to X number, right? It's sort of developmental in our relationship and what seems to be going on with her and what seems to be going on with me. At 46, it may be that the milk runs out because I hit menopause before it makes sense between us, and then that's how it goes. So it's dynamic. And then the only other thing that I would say is that I think part of it too in raising a girl and growing power has to do with empowerment. I wanted her to be able to be in charge of as many things in her life as possible, right? So this is her first food supply. So for her getting to have some kind of input in terms of like taking charge of when that ends, I'm interested in it. I'm not sure how it'll play out, but I'm interested in it. And thank you. It's just interesting. It's not something that I've talked about publicly, but I'm in conversation with some foreign folks in the birthing community. And so, I think this is something that everybody gets to figure out. If it's not working, it's not working. But I also think that any way that we can help young people be empowered, sometimes it's empowering to set a limit so that they can get to some feelings that they've had a hard time getting to, but sometimes it's empowering to let them choose. And so for us to be not rigid in the yes or no, but be thinking constantly about what's best for everybody, I think is great. And thank you. children running off to hide places and having a cover, and so that was the hard part for me. And the nursing was the first time I nursed uncovered, and I was, it was kind of a big deal. I don't know why I was worried, but it felt really great to be surrounded by other ladies breastfeeding and coming home. It's still something that I face every time I go on COVID. It's still hard, if I'm not with other people to nurse on COVID, but I'm gonna do it. So that's where I am.
So I just wanted to say a few words about nursing newborn baby. And before I say that, I just wanted to give my appreciation to each and every parent here on this panel. I'm just so blessed with the people that I know and love. So thank you. Really, really thank you. Beautiful women, this is the story that everyone's gone through. Big, intense desire, sometimes with no support whatsoever, to be the best parent that you can be. It's just so admirable. So, can't applaud for these ladies enough. So, I just want to say to my 19-year-old self, good job, girl. Just good job.
Had a set of twins naturally, vaginally, when everybody thought I couldn't do that. And then everybody said I couldn't nurse them, and then I did that. And I was really blessed on both parents to have really easy birth experiences. No pain, just two big fat gorgeous baby boys for my effort. It was great. And nursing too is this incredible pleasure. Just the bonding just speaks to snuggled up in bed. My nickname for myself was Mama Dog and her puppies. Because that's what we were. And I did not understand why people would want me to have to get up and sterilize bottles. This is 79, and we're still doing that stupidness. Sterilize 2 bottles full of formula, warm it up. Why would I want to do that when I could just turn over and I have 2 breasts and I have 2 babies and they can eat and all is good? So I just want to put that out there. I think it's really important. We got 2 breasts for a reason. I have a beautiful cousin who had a set of triplets and she nursed them too. Just need a little more help. A lot more help. But she did. And it's entirely possible to do that. So I want to put that out there. And my heartbreak about my breastfeeding came from the fact that one of my sons was found to have a genetic disorder. And we found that out when he was about almost a month old. And he had to be taken off the breast. And it was devastating to me. Devastating. And this began another huge journey with each, I'm a granny now, so I have this incredible nostalgic vista view of parenting that grandparents I think get to have or people who have grown children get that. But I could really see that was one of the big issues. The break in that bond has resulted in a lot of challenges with that particular son. Now we've done really well, and all my kids have grown up in therapy and we're cool now, but it's been an issue. But even in that moment, even in that being scary of finding out that I had a son with a medical condition and him being hospitalized and other things going on with that, being able to nurse his brother was incredibly helpful. Incredibly helpful. And I just think any of us who are blessed to nurse little ones, we know that there's a calming effect that happens around that. Once you get to that sweet spot with your nursing and everything is going the way you want it to, you really have this nice hormone release, and a stress reducer, and just a centering practice. Breastfeeding as meditation, that's something that's really rare in the world.
And then it's really helped me to not be completely hysterical and deranged because I had one beautiful child that had to be in the hospital and another beautiful child at home. Also, because they were twins, we were able to finagle permission from the hospital folks to have both babies in the hospital because my beautiful son David refused to eat without his brother. So I had one baby in the hospital and I had one baby at home who refused to nurse unless he was with his brother. Yeah, it was serious. But I can't speak more highly of the bliss of that connection, no matter what challenges families face. At the end of the day, I know, because I have that beautiful distant view, because I have grown children, that you get to look back and feel really, really proud of yourself, really blessed. And you see your child prospering in the world, and you know the hand that you had in that. And no one can take that from you ever. So, I want to close this beautiful panel. Oh, do you have one more person to speak? We have someone who wants to say a couple more things, so we'll do that right now.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I made some notes as other people were talking of like things I meant to say. In terms of, just to reiterate, in terms of like supporting people in breastfeeding, I think the message that it can be really hard at the beginning, but you can do it anyway, is really good. That I didn't expect it to be as difficult, and so putting that one out there. And another thing a friend of mine said was the message of don't quit on your worst day. And I think that that's really helpful for parents that are struggling with breastfeeding. If you have somebody in your community that's interested in breast milk donation, I think that using the community to support that is really helpful. Especially in the first month or so, it was incredibly overwhelming. And I think the fact that we had a third parent was one of the things that made that more possible, But all the posting on social media and following up with people and what health questions are you going to ask them and stuff like that. That if that's something you can tap your community to help with, or that you can provide for somebody in your community, that's really helpful in the beginning. And Ginny actually told me, I think, that it gets better when Amelia was 2 or 3 months and Dash was 6 weeks younger, and that was really helpful. And you're a little older, and I remember saying, when does it get better? When does it get easier? And I think Shauna talked earlier about the tongue tie. Dash also had a tongue tie. We had a big number of different problems going on, but it was a really borderline one, and a number of people looked at it from midwives to the lactation nurses and said, well, it might be, it might not be, and we got it snipped when he was 30 days old exactly, because that was the last day of our insurance, and that made an incredible difference pain-wise. So my supply didn't pick up much, and I don't know if it would have if I had done that earlier, but the nursing became much less painful. And so that was really helpful. And, it sounded like a really scary procedure, but, being there in person for it was much scarier and more traumatic for me than it was for him, and it made a big difference. So to put that back in. Also, the apple breast supplementers are also can be really difficult to get the hang of it. And once you do them, I did it for a year, and after a couple months, it was all second nature. But getting somebody that knows how they work to do it with somebody at the beginning, and keep. I don't know how many nights I spent crying on the Medela website trying to mess with different things and make them work and stuff like that. But you can keep trying with those. And just one more piece is, so I'm transgender and I don't actually identify as a mom. My friend calls me his Baba. And one of the interesting things for me about breastfeeding is that it was not a time for me that I felt connected to my body. And the combination of the difficulties we had with supply and the stuff that it brought around body stuff, it was a pretty stressful time. And for people, have many different, reasons. I have somebody else that experienced some abuse around her breast that really struggled with breastfeeding for that issue. And being able to support each other that, that you can still do it, even if, and you can connect to the parts of it that are powerful for you. And for me, that was being able to provide this to my son, and it was something that, I did, that it was kind of a unique thing that I could provide him, and that was important to me, and felt like a gift that I was giving him, and that I was taking some really difficult steps in order to give this to him, and that felt rewarding. And that you can find the places in you that connect to what you're doing, and it doesn't have to be, even if it's not this like kind of this relaxing magical experience, like you can push through that also. So just include that. Okay.
Anyone else have a burning desire for things that you want to, but it's true, when you sit and listen to other people talk, and there's more things that bubble up. We've got the time. Come on.
I'm so lucky that he lets me just put him down and he's happy. I think that I wanted to talk about how it was when I was pregnant the first time and not sure how breastfeeding was going to go for us. I was very concerned with my breasts being sexual only for my partner, and I was really worried about infant sucking on them. And I had a 5% C-section, and so I had to deal with, breastfeeding for the first time while recovering and having this, scar and pain and tenderness, and then going home and having to breastfeed through that. I didn't have any major problems, thank goodness, but it was just something that I needed to do, and I wish that I had more support and knew people could call at that point. And then when I was breastfeeding through my first pregnancy, I had a lot of people telling me that maybe I shouldn't wean, that, why wasn't my toddler still getting milk, that kind of thing. And we kept going, and then when I got pregnant for the third time, I had 2 children that were still not done nursing, and they were, nursing less and less, I suppose, in pregnancy because there wasn't as much going on. But then he was born, so I had 3 people who thought, they were newborns all of a sudden. And I felt like I was nursing triplets, and then I had to taper down my eldest, who is 4, down back to what she's used to, which is like asking once every week or 2 or 3, or so. The last few days, she was really enjoying all the activity. Being around other breastfeeding children, she asked to nurse me. I was going to say one other thing. I spend my time going online and trying to tell people encouraging words. If I see someone that's pregnant tweet something about I'm worried about breastfeeding, I'll hop on there and go, there's online support, here's a 1-800 number to call, have a beautiful birth, and who's that lady? They just don't care what to say.
I have just one more thing, and actually, the theme